Hey, what's up, guys? So today we're going to be talking about Dragon Age Inquisition and how does it compare to Skyrim. Now you might be asking yourself, why are we talking about Skyrim with Dragon Age Inquisition? So they're both RPGs. We know that. And what I think a lot of people will do when they think about playing Dragon Age Inquisition, they will ask, what's the best RPG that most people are talking about today? And Skyrim is pretty much up there, right? So, people will be going through that reference point is, should I play this game? Is it like Skyrim? Or, should I play Skyrim instead or Dragon Age Inquisition? So I think it's just a reference point where Skyrim right now has sort of set a benchmark for RPGs. So the thing to keep in mind, of course, this is really, an apples to oranges comparison. They aren't the same type of games at all, but they are both RPGs, right? So they both have their strengths and weaknesses. So yeah, you would go through, most people will go through these points on how does it compare to it, but here's some things that you can expect with it. So first of all, Dragon Age Inquisition's an awesome game. I really, really like it. I just really find it a really great game. Skyrim's also an awesome game, although out of the Elder Scrolls series, I liked Oblivion the best for my own personal reasons. But I just think that they're both really great games, and there are certain things that if you like certain things of Skyrim, you might like Dragon Age Inquisition, and some of the things that if you don't like Skyrim, Dragon Age Inquisition might have some of those missing areas. So these are two great RPGs. So the first thing is that you look at is the graphics. Okay, now the graphics for Skyrim when it first came out were really top of the line for its time, around 2011. Today it might look a little bit dated, right? Having said that, you have all these mods for Skyrim which you can update the graphics and pretty much get it up to speed for the current generation. So Skyrim can look amazing now with if you have it on a PC and you have a modding ability. So Dragon Age Inquisition's graphics, in my opinion, are okay. They're not bad. They're good. They're pleasing. But I really didn't feel it was really pushing the envelope with graphics for the most part. I really didn't feel that it was amazing. I've even had my Oblivion modded up, which is the Elder Scrolls game before Skyrim, to almost look to the level of Dragon Age Inquisition. So I think it could still have been a little bit better, but it's still good. But out of the box, yeah, Dragon Age Inquisition, I would say, does look somewhat better because you do get some of those next generation textures and frame rates and draw distances. But I'd give Skyrim the win on this in terms of graphics and relative to the time that it came out and things like that. So the graphics are nice with Dragon Age Inquisition, but nothing here that's really wowing me, that's sticking out, that's different. Whereas I think Skyrim was really sticking out from all the other games out there. Now let's talk about the story. I think Dragon Age really wins here. Yeah, I really do. I think the story with Dragon Age is much, much better. Just the way it's laid out. Like with Skyrim, it just seemed kind of repetitive. You just kill one dragon after another, and then you supposedly have to go, you sort of ascend your way into finding out the origins of dragons. So it's kind of like going to, with Skyrim, the story kind of felt like, you're going to, you went to a fight and a hockey game broke out. Like it just seems like there's something added to that, like, or watching a martial arts action movie and they add a story around the action, right? With Dragon Age, I really find the story is diversified, you're curious, and the way they do the cinematics, which Skyrim doesn't have, it doesn't have those cinematics, the way you interact with the different characters, all those things, really make for more engaging storyline. Like the dialogue trees in Skyrim, like there's so many characters in Skyrim, but none of them are deep relationships, right? They're all very predictable character trees that don't go very deeply, whereas with Dragon Age Inquisition, it's there's these diverse discussion trees, and people will react differently, and you'll build different relationships based on how you respond to them, right? And that's pretty much characteristic of the Dragon Age series. So I think the story is great, and so if you have one of the pains that you might have with playing Skyrim is you feel things are sort of repetitive. There's no really a sense of engagement with the story. You just can also follow the map marker from one place to the other. I think Dragon Age really kicks Skyrim's butt in this, and I think the story is much more varied and it's got much more twists and turns here. Now let's talk about diversity. So what I mean by diversity is, when you go to Skyrim, it's pretty much the same experience. You're playing from either first person or third person view. Most of the land is this cold, snowy land of Skyrim. It's pretty dark. This is one of the reasons I didn't like Skyrim. I really liked the game before it, Oblivion, which was very varied in its landscape, very varied in its type of quest. Again, that's my personal opinion, but I realized why Skyrim did that. Like, it wasn't a typical high fantasy game. Some people didn't like Oblivion because they thought it was just a very typical high fantasy game, and Skyrim is more of a sort of Viking theme, which is what the Nord people are. And but I didn't really find a whole lot of diversity there, which Dragon Age, I think, has got a lot of diversity. The lands are all different. They're all different looking. And you really get that that sort of sense of variety there. And just even the characters. So with Skyrim, you have your main character, and you might have some people that might accompany you for a quest or two. But for the most part, you're playing everything through your eyes. Here you have 4 different party members you can control, and you can fight like a warrior or fight like a mage, and even have the character members within your party interact with each other. And the level of diversity I find is much more, and the experience that's offered Dragon Age is much more superior than Skyrim in that respect. Now let's talk about the open world aspect. Now, hands down, Skyrim is way more open world than most games in general. So let alone it's also more open world than Dragon Age Inquisition. But there's not going to be a lot of games like that. Actually, Skyrim is probably the only game with that sort of depth level of open world. The Elder Scrolls series, that's what they're known for. Just a level to be able to go anywhere you want and play everything in a sequence. But with that, there's drawbacks. Like, you can't have the type of tight storyline like you do with Dragon Age Inquisition, because what if the character does need to do things in a certain sequence of events to see that, right? So that inherently makes the storylines a little bit more flat. So there's a lot more of an open world with Skyrim, so no doubt. And you throw modding on there, which I'll talk about next. The game can be completely endless. Like, you can have all these endless user-created quests. So, having said that, Dragon Age Inquisition, it's not really an open world game per se, but you do have a fair amount of freedom where these areas open up sequentially, and they're huge areas, and they're vast and sprawling, and you feel that sense of vastness. So I didn't really feel like I was confined into 4 walls with the game. It's not the whole sense of like, wow, you just walk anywhere, wander around, and explore like Skyrim. Having said that, again, with the whole aspect I talked about diversity, I didn't feel like walking around and wandering with Skyrim, because I just felt most of it was kind of the same land and the same type of quests where I did with Oblivion. I really felt like just wandering around and exploring and discovering things. But in terms of the open world engine, no doubt Skyrim's got the leg up on this. Next, let's talk about modding. So basically, both Inquisition and Skyrim can be modded. Skyrim is way more moddable. I mean, and this again has to do with just the way the engine is built, right? It's, you have graphic mods, you have, add new spells, you have people who created new quests, a new whole, which adds hours of gameplay to the original game. You can have quirky mods, you can have user interface mods. Having said that, I haven't really dug that deeply with the Inquisition mod, so, but just the way, the way Skyrim is structured, it allows for that sort of open-endedness on, the mods, whereas Dragon Age is a little bit more of a closed-off platform, more of a closed-off world, so it's sort of more difficult to get a lot of mods going. And the Elder Scrolls, makers, Bethesda, they know that mods is one of the things that makes this game very successful. They've learned from that, from their previous games with Morrowind and Oblivion, to release a creation kit to encourage that user-created content, right? So, Inquisition does have some mods out there, and it's got still a decent modding community, but it's not going to be ever the level of Skyrim. So hands down, Skyrim is a better game, in that respect. So I mean, overall, do I think Dragon Age Inquisition is something that would topple the reputation of Skyrim as one of the best RPGs in the last few years? Probably not, but it's strong where the areas where Skyrim is weak, and that's what I think it does really, really well. And it's still an amazing game. It could still be, number one in a lot of people's books over Skyrim, because of some of those areas of Skyrim people might not like, like just that whole lack of depth in the stories, and just having very, blasé sort of character interactions, right? So definitely, it can win a lot of areas. So in some people's book, Dragon Age Inquisition could be a much better game, but in a general sense, I think Skyrim is more superior to more of a broader audience to have that wow factor. Having said that, I think Dragon Age Inquisition is the best thing that's come out in years, because Skyrim was released in 2011, and Bethesda's now focused on Elder Scrolls Online, which is it's okay. I mean, they're focused on that, getting that onto the PS4 platforms and next gen. They already had it on the PC, and so nothing's really coming out from that front. So yeah, I think in terms of RPGs, it's one of the better things out there. But it's a great game. You have to. Most people naturally will compare it to Skyrim. It doesn't directly compare, but I think it's strong where Skyrim is weak, which I think that's where it knows its identity well, in terms of good story, diversity, and difference with the way you play it. I like the way it plays. Like, the combat is, a mix between strategy and real time, combat. It's actually better than Skyrim, more engaging in that respect. So I think it's really worth checking out. But yeah, check it out, Dragon Age Inquisition. I think there's very few people would be disappointed with this game. All right, I'll see ya.